Are you a risk taker? I don't believe I set out in this life to be a risk taker, but if I look back at my life, I have taken some large risks. Not all of them have worked out. Some of them really haven't worked out, but some of them have been amazing. Some of them have led me to the life that I get to live today. And I'll be forever grateful that somewhere in my DNA, somewhere in my upbringing, somewhere in that deep part inside of you, I decided that it was okay to take risks. If you go back, I think the first real big risk I took was moving to Davenport, Iowa when I was 21 to go to chiropractic school. I was pretty shy and didn't have a lot of confidence, and moving 1,000 miles away from home and living by myself for the first time was definitely outside of my comfort zone. I then look at just starting our own practice. I was in practice for 8 years with my now ex husband, but he was right out of school. He was a year behind me in chiropractic school. And we just dove head in and bought a small practice in Naperville. We saw it and 2 hours later made an offer on it. Very definitive decision, or decisive decision. It was a gut decision of this is where we want to be. We didn't even know much about Naperville. It had only been the second time I had been there. And we both were from New Jersey. We knew we didn't want to go back to the East Coast. And we knew we loved Chicago. And this opportunity presented itself in, one of those big coincidence type of ways. And we went for it and took on more debt than we both already had. And I remember in the first couple of years, us looking at each other like, oh my gosh, what have we done? Being in business is no joke. And it takes a lot of hard work, time, energy, sweat, tears, lots of tears to grow a business basically from the ground up, which is what this practice was. They were only seeing a couple patients when we took it over. And then I moved forward in 2008. Chris and I got divorced, and I came close to closing the Naperville practice because there had been a law change in Medicare billing, which was a large percentage of our three practices that we owned together. And we just weren't making any money. I had no money, had like $100, and I had an opportunity that I was going to go work for another practice and bring my patients to that practice. And I was, one meeting and one signature away from closing my practice that I have now been able to grow and mold and have it be completely mine, and I get to do whatever I want with it. And I've been running it now for 13 years by myself. Although it certainly had some ups and downs, it has been incredible, and I have this team of incredible people that work for me that is like a second family. And I look back and think, had I just not taken that risk and pushed forward and said, I'm going to do this on my own, I can make this work. If I didn't do that, if I didn't believe in myself and have faith in myself, even though it scared the shit out of me, I just can't even imagine where my life would be today. Set the tone for the rest of my life. So sometimes you have these big life-changing decisions that really affect you. The next risk that I remember taking was in 2011. I took over Naperville Moms Network, which is now the Branch Moms community, and I really felt as if our group needed an in-person playtown, an in-person clubhouse, somewhere to get together in person because so much of what we did was online. And I took all of the money that I had saved up and I started this new business, and I lost an obnoxious amount of money. And I remember before I pulled the plug on deciding to sign this lease and create this space called Cafe and Play, my dad said to me, he's a financial planner. He's like, Cathy, you have done an incredible job of getting yourself back, back to where you need to be financially from where you were just a few years ago. Are you sure you want to take this risk? Are you sure you want to take what you've done and put it into a new business? And I remember with all of my being just saying, you know what? I'd rather be 65 and look back and know it didn't work than be 65 and wondered, what if? What if this dream in my heart, what if I had done it? What would it have turned into? when I opened it, my hopes were at some point there'd be 60 of them across the country, and I would be able to franchise it. And moms and dads and kids would have this magnificent, safe, happy place to play and some good, kind coffee, which that's my sister's coffee brand, which I've talked about before. But that did not happen. And a combination of me not making enough money to support a full-time manager and all the staff and the expenses. And, when people threw diapers down, they put diapers in the toilet. I think we had that 3 times. And we weren't making enough money, and I was taking the extra money I was making at my practice and covering the loss of Cafe and Play. But we were getting enough new patients from being right next door to Cafe and Play, and people realizing I was also a chiropractor. So it just kind of felt like a wash. And then some other additional insurance changes happened in 2015, and I just wasn't making enough at the practice, and I couldn't risk both of them. So you have to also understand, what level of risk are you going to take, and at what point do you need to cut your losses for certain things. So that's another skill, and sometimes that's hard. It's a gray line. Are you pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone enough, or are you making stupid decisions? So that's only you can make those judgment calls. The next thing I did was in early 2020, right before COVID, the 3 women that run the People Tree, which is a storytelling place in Naperville, they asked me to tell a story. And while I can get up in front of lots of people and talk, I run networking events and large events. I've given the keynote speech for the Chamber of Commerce when I was the incoming chairman of the board in 2013. I've taken a lot. I'm okay with being in the spotlight, although that chairman of the board speech definitely had me nervous. But the People Tree, for some reason, made me even more nervous. And they had actually been asking me to do it probably for about 2 years. Every once in a while, I'd see someone, they'd be like, "So when are we going to get you up on our stage?" And I'd say, no, I don't want to do that. And for me, it's because I tend to do really well if I have like a little note card with some bullet points. Because anytime you're getting up in front of a group, it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. It's not like I'm like, "Oh, cool, let me just go do that." There's always a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of butterflies. And so the little note card with some bullet points makes me feel more comfortable, because God forbid I just blank out, then I can look down and see where I'm at. It's no big deal. And the bullet points just, I can just talk about things kind of like I do with this. I was just going up to take a shower. Jason said, "What are you going to talk about?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'll figure it out in the shower." um, so I did the People Tree in January, and I absolutely blanked out twice. I mean, no, I had no idea what I was supposed to say, and it was a little embarrassing. But when I agreed to it, I knew that it was the next phase of me pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. It was the next phase of growth for me. And the fact is, they asked me at one point, it was in the middle of COVID, so I don't think the event happened, if I would tell another story. And although I'm dreading them coming back and asking again, I will tell you, I will do it again if they ask, just to get more practice of that style of speaking in front of people. It's one of my continual goals in life, is to get more and more comfortable speaking in front of large audiences. And then in August of 2020, I launched Socket. And Socket, if you've been paying attention or listening to what I do on a regular basis, Socket is like my heart, my life lessons, my humor, my um, emotional journey of life. It's kind of all of that rolled into one, and I just lay it all out there for everyone. I'm very open with the things I've gone through, whether they're great things or they're really, really challenging things. And as I've said before, I feel as if someone's got to raise their hand, right? The more people that raise their hand and say, "This is what I've gone through, this is where I've been, this is how I've gotten out of that situation, this is how I've made my life better, or I've worked through those really hard issues," the more people are going to feel more comfortable sharing themselves. And In a world where everything looks perfect on social media, having some true, authentic people out there with a large enough platform to share their stories, I think is so important. So it is an honor to do Socket. It also took me again out of my comfort zone. The first time I had to tape a solo podcast, I didn't really know that was a big thing. The funny thing is, I really never listened to podcasts until I created my own. I just knew it was the next thing I wanted to do. Um, and I was taping on Zoom with friends of mine. And I was thinking, oh, I was going to do an interview for every single podcast. And the woman that helps me edit, she's like, well, normally, they do kind of a mixture of just yourself and then interviews. And I was like, wait, I got to tape by myself. And I remember taping the first podcast and I was nervous. I'm like, I'm just talking, staring at myself in my computer with a big microphone over my head. Um, it'd be funny to go back. I actually will go back and listen to that first podcast because I am sure that I've gotten better at this. I'm sure that if I counted the ums in my first podcast, I don't want to know what that number is. So please don't listen to it for the ums. Maybe I can re-record it. I'm not sure if that's allowed. Well, I guess it's my podcast, so I guess I can do what I want. And so all of those different things in my life have really brought me to where I am today. And I think about the things that I've learned about myself. I've learned so much about what makes me tick, what is my comfort zone, how far outside of that comfort zone do I want to go. It's made me really proud of myself because I don't leave anything on the table. Right this very moment, I don't have anything that I feel as if I haven't done that I've wanted to do or regrets. I obviously have screwed up and done things I shouldn't have done. But to my knowledge, I have apologized for any of those things that I feel as if, man, I wronged you or I did something against you. I've done my best to be honest with myself and and not think that I'm never going to make a mistake or I'm never going to hurt someone's feelings. But if I know I've done that, I go straight to that person and say, we've got to talk about this. I am so sorry. I'm sure I made you feel terrible. And luckily, I'm a pretty kind person, and that doesn't happen all that often. And many times, if that happens, it's inadvertent. But I just think that getting in tune with who you are and what you're capable of, and all of those little dreams in your heart, all of those things that you think about when you wake up at 3 in the morning, like, oh, I should do this or I should do that. I think I've seen with COVID, I've talked to a couple of people about it. We know tons of people that have moved to Florida, moved to North Carolina, quit their jobs, um, started a business. I kind of feel like in the midst of COVID, we all had to stare ourselves right back in our own eyes and say, how's your life going? How are you how are you feeling about where you're at in your life? Are you on track for you? Are you on track for the life that you want to live? And I think for a lot of people, the answer was no. I've seen some people that got divorced because of that, because they were just a little bit together too much in the middle of COVID. But it almost was like anything that was bubbling up, anything that people wanted to do, it was like, well, we might as well freaking do it right now because there's no better time like the future. I think it's one of the biggest benefits that came out of being home more and having the time and the quiet a little bit to evaluate where we are in our lives. Another thing that benefit I see is I feel really proud. I feel maybe I already said that, but I feel proud of myself for the things that I've pushed through, the nerves that I pushed through, the risks I've taken. I also always evaluated it and I tried to make myself feel better about it or rationalize the decision a little bit. Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? If you're talking about public speaking, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to make a mistake or you're going to blank out like I did and you're going to feel embarrassed. That is honestly the worst thing that's going to happen. What else is really going to happen? And I tried to look at it from the perspective that most people sitting there listening to what I have to say would be scared to death to be up here. Like, I thank God I'm not up there. And so I don't think that most people judge people all that much for speaking. Sometimes we watch Shark Tank, and there was a woman on there. She was so nervous, and I felt so bad for her. But at the end of the day, I'm like, go you. You're on Shark Tank, right? How many people think about wanting to be on Shark Tank, have some sort of invention, have some sort of business but they never do that because it would just be too scary. So I don't know. I was trying to talk to her and be like, you did a great job. She couldn't hear me, but I was sending her positive thoughts. Another thing that's happened is I've made incredible new friends. Every time I raise my hand for a leadership position, to sit on a board, to step up to chair something, I've met people that are like-minded and really have fulfilled such a special place in my heart. And it's just countless. I said to Jason, we went on a walk today, and I said, Naperville's been really good to me. Now I've been really good to Naperville too. I've put my time in and I've given back and I've stepped up. But the friendships and relationships that I've been able to build are priceless. And I just can't imagine my life without them. And the last thing, I guess, and I maybe have already touched on this, is you really get to design your life. You get to live your dream life. You get to create your schedule if you own your own business, and decide what you want for your life and what you don't want for your life. And that's awesome. And that's exciting. And not everyone gets to do that. And so taking risks, following your path, listening to your gut, and getting outside of your comfort zone will lead you to places that you can't imagine and that you will be so happy you chose to go. I hope this week you decide to take a step towards stepping out of your comfort zone and taking that risk and see where it leads you. Thanks for listening. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, my email is Cathy@simplysocket.com, and our website is simplysocket.com. Have a great day.